Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. We are again in the basement hiding from the crappy Canadian weather, and I can't tell you how much I hate living in this place during the winter. Right now it is minus 22, feels like minus 34 with the wind chill, and we're expecting about up to a foot to a foot and a half of snow in the next few days, so I can't stand it here. But anyway, we got a viewer bike today, and it's from another Canadian resident who lives in a nicer place, and that is out more on the west coast in BC, where the weather is a little milder. And this is Red Rider's bike, and this is her custom Harley-Davidson shovelhead bobber. Now, there's too much to list on what has been done to this bike, but this pic she sent in, I believe it was from the June 2023 edition of Easy Riders. And if you folks want to check out her or her bike, she is on YouTube, does have a YouTube channel, and that is the aptly named Red Rider. So go check her out on that. And thanks, Red, for sending that in. And say hi to your dad for me, or if he's watching, hi Dad. And if anybody else has a bike that they would like to see on the channel, send me the pic. My email address is in the description below. So, electric motorcycles, the scourge of the motorcycle genre. Now, I will say hate might be a little bit of a strong word for this, but definitely dislike. I do dislike electric motorcycles. And one thing is, I am so sick of governments and companies and people coming out with this sense of misplaced self-righteousness where, you know, they're saving the world. These people use a lot of scare tactics, kind of the Chicken Little, the sky is falling, to get you into some of these. But anyway, we're going to get into that. Now, the first thing I don't like about electric bikes is the look. I have yet to see the electric bike that I myself would actually want to be seen on or buy, for that matter. Now, there mostly seem to be more themed around the look of a sport bike. And again, sport bikes are not something I'm really into. So again, that goes against the look of what I would want in a motorcycle. And I mean, since this is, you know, basically a Harley channel, let's have a look at Harley's electric motorcycle, or one of them, the Livewire. Now, to me, when this bike came out, I thought it looked hideous, and that opinion has not changed. I still think it is a very ugly looking bike. To me, it looks like you're basically riding on either a radiator or a big battery. That's about it. A battery on wheels. That is how I see it. And, you know, people say a lot of things about Harley's stuck in the past with these old air-cooled engines. Well, I'll tell you what, I would much rather ride a bike with an air-cooled engine because it looks a hell of a lot better. And if people really want bikes to be bought that are electric, they need to do better. The next issue I have with these bikes is the sound, and that is that there generally isn't really much of one. You will have a whir or a hum, perhaps, and I don't get it. I don't like it. One of the reasons I got into Harley-Davidson to begin with was the sound. I love the sound of a Harley engine. Now, mind you, some of them have changed, you know, over from engine to engine, but it still remains around the same, and I love the sound of that loud Harley engine. Now, I just did a video about whether loud pipes save lives, and whether they do or they don't, I can tell you that the sound from this bike isn't going to save any lives, because it's hard enough for a driver to see you on a smaller bike like an electric bike, let alone now they're not going to even have the chance to hear you. So I can't, a bike that doesn't make a sound or makes a little whir like a sewing machine, I just can't get behind. Another reason I'm not into electric motorcycles is, quite frankly, the inconvenience. And this goes for cars and trucks as well. I mean, at least around here, there aren't a ton of charging stations. And to me, going on a trip and having to plot out my trip depending on where the charging stations are, that doesn't do it for me, quite frankly. You are going to have a way easier time finding a gas station than you are a charging station. Definitely around here anyway. And while we're talking about charging, let's talk about the time it takes. Some bikes will take several hours to charge, and even on a fast charger, maybe an hour. But at the same time, let's say you're going on a trip. Do you really want to stop for an hour, drive for a ride for an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours, depending on the range, and then stop for an hour? That would drive me absolute nuts. Whereas I could just stop on a regular motorcycle, take 10 minutes to fill it up and be back on the road, because that's the reason I'm out there. I'm out there to ride. I'm not out there to sit there, stare at my watch or my phone and see what time it is, because I've got to sit by the side of the charging station for an hour waiting for this bike to be finally done. That is going to add substantial time to any trip or ride. Now, the last reason I'm not into these electric motorcycles, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, is more of the politics of it. Because these are meant to be green bikes. These are environmentally friendly bikes. And if that's what you think, I think you may have another thing coming. Basically, do you know how many barrels of oil probably go into just manufacturing that electric motorcycle? Anything with plastic or rubber, it's going to have oil in it. And these bikes also have to be lubed with oil and grease. And now it is true, you don't need gas or anything like that. You don't have to worry about the emissions of that. However, I will say that you do need electricity to charge these things. Now, number one, that's not going to be free. You're going to have to pay for that electricity. But the other thing is you have to look at where your electricity grid is generated from. Whatever makes your electricity, I don't care whether it's solar, windmill, hydro, whatever it is, whatever gets you that energy, that electricity, that power, one way or another, there's either gas, oil, or diesel in there somewhere. I guarantee it. Now, how about the batteries, these big batteries that are in these motorcycles? And again, this goes for the cars and trucks. If you want a battery, you are going to need some minerals, and those minerals are going to take mining. Now, people seem to just cry foul when they hear about emissions or somebody's, oh God, they're going to put a pipe in the ground and get oil out of it. Ugh. Have you ever been to a mine site? Because I have. It is going to be a tore up, desolate wasteland where the earth has just been ravaged for acres, for miles, for as far as the eye can see. So that's the first thing. You're destroying a lot of fucking nature when you're doing a mine. Also, you think about the equipment that's used. How much diesel and oil goes into those machines for some of these mining operations. And now if you really want to talk about something, perhaps we look at something like those cobalt mines, where overseas they're using basically slave child labor to get these minerals out of the ground. But yet people will stand on a soapbox and say, oh, it's so much better to have, a big battery car with no emissions because it helps the environment in the world. Not really. Now, admittedly, in this video, I've been pretty hard on electric motorcycles. One thing I will say good about them is that I think, and I've said this in other videos, that I think electric is probably the future of performance, or speed at least. But having said that, I know a lot of critics, if anybody watches this video and asks, well, have you actually been on an electric motorcycle? The answer is no. Not because I don't want to. I would actually like to try one out, but there are none around here, or at least none that I know of. And I've never seen anybody on the road out here on one either, for that matter. But to me, it makes no difference if I've been on one or not. It's not going to change my opinion. I don't care if this bike is the comfiest, the best handling, and it goes Mach 5. It really does not matter to me whatsoever. And why is that? That is because I would much rather stick to my old slow Harley. Why is that? Because that bike to me, it has a soul. I get a feeling on that bike. I hear that noise that gets me jacked up to go. Not a little whir or anything like that. I love to cruise on my Harley. That is the bike I want. That bike, in my opinion, says way more than some electric monstrosity out there. So for those of you out there who might own an electric bike, have an electric bike, want to get an electric bike, don't worry about what I got to say about it. It really means nothing. You go, you do you. If you really want one, you really love them, go out and get them. The only thing I ask is that you not get up on a soapbox and tell everybody how you're saving the world or helping the environment somehow because you're doing this. Just because it doesn't have emissions doesn't mean that you're not harming the environment in one way or another. But anyway, maybe I'm way out of line on this. I'm sure you'll tell me in the comments, but I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say about their thoughts on electric bikes going forward and currently. And anyway, until the next time, you guys stay warm. I'm gonna try to, and we will see you in the next one.